All right, we'll call this meeting to order. My name is Meg McGrath-Smith, and I'm the Chair of Charter and Rules. It is Tuesday, October 14th, 2025 at 7 p.m., and we are meeting here in Chambers. To my right is Councilor Linda Vakin, and also in Chambers is Councilor Patty Devine. Thank you for joining us. While this meeting is taking place in City Hall in person, you can also join us via Zoom, or you can also join us on television. And the live Spanish interpretation is available on that local access channel 15 or on Zoom. All right, let's jump right in.
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yes, Councilor Greeny?
Yes, I'm in attendance here. I just wanted a question to the chair.
Much. Yes. Can I also just, thank you. I want to just name that Councilor Greeny is also joining us on Zoom.
Yeah, my agenda that I got in the mail states that this meeting was supposed to start at 6:30, and I don't understand why it starts at 7.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Councilor Greeny. The meeting was changed several days ago as a result of a personal conflict, and while the committee members were notified, and I know on the calendar it was changed. I apologize that you weren't reached out to so that you knew.
I was notified today.
Oh, well,
I didn't look at the calendar because I originally had it for 6:30, but I did receive it in time to.
Madam Chair, that was my fault.
My question is, I hope this doesn't violate the open meeting law because of the change of time.
It was updated on the website. It was my mistake. I did. It got changed, but the copy that got mailed out to you was printed out before the time change, and so that was my mistake. I apologize, Councilor Greeny.
Well, I just got the Gmail. I think it was today too. So.
Yeah, my apologies, Councilor Greeny. I don't believe that it certainly breaks open meeting law, but I do want to thank you for coming, and I'm so sorry that you were waiting. I also want to name that Councilor Jourdain has also joined us in the room.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you, and second, Councilor Jourdain, if you want to grab an agenda, there's one right there.
Oh, I have one. This is the one.
Okay, and yes, to vote on item 1, all in favor? Aye. Item 1 from 5/21/24 from Councilor Devine, order that the City Council consider a rule addition to Rule C, 6C, which is decorum in speaking, adding the following words as a second paragraph. No councillor shall speak more than 4 minutes during debate. The President and/or the City Council administrative assistant shall keep track of the minutes. A 1-minute reminder shall be given at the 3-minute mark during debate. This was amended to 3 minutes at a time, and then was referred back February 4th, and then was tabled at another meeting where we were not able to take it up, but I'm happy to take it up today. Let's hear first from the maker of the order, Councilor Devine.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, for taking this up. One of the reasons that I had filed it way back in May of 2024 was because sometimes people are just talking so long that I'm getting calls at home when I see people on the street. They're not even watching our meetings anymore because of the constant talk. Sometimes we're up to a half an hour. And I know that the Congress has a 5-minute rule. And they stick to it. It's the Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. So that's why I'm doing it, to save time, and people have complained that people are just talking much too long.
Thank you, Councilor Devine. And now open to the floor if anyone else wants to weigh in or share their concerns. Councilor Vakin, thank you.
Thank you. So we've hashed this back and forth, and we've recently had advice from the chair relative to matters of free speech and how we cannot really be putting limits on people relative to that. And I think this is really putting a limit on the speech of the members of the council. Since I've served on the council, we have had always on the council, at least during my tenure, one or more counselors that tended to be more long-winded than many of the other counselors. However, that unique aspect of that particular counselor was never reined in the past. And as I think I may have said when this came up one or two other times before, it seems and it feels like it's aimed at one person. And particularly lately, one or two or three city councilors have been called out by name on social media repeatedly, being called different and variety of names, none of them related to issues, only related to people's opinions of their person, which is highly unprofessional and unseemly for elected officials to be doing. So I think the timing of this to come before the council to try to stifle anybody's speech is not a good thing, particularly during the election cycle when we've had people literally campaigning from their seat in the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon. And I will say that this item initially came up either paired with or very similar in terms of time frame to a number of other items that we were taking up at the time, and we decided that we would go towards a meeting cap as an overall way of saying, let's find a way to rein it in, and let's table this and see, have we resolved it? And I think in most cases, we have, right? We've been able, other than a few meetings this cycle, to keep it to that cap. I totally understand the value of this. For me, is potentially naming, let's share the space, let's make sure that we are trying to be concise so that other people feel like there's more space to speak. I do see the value in that. And I'm not against, some sort of cap, although I don't know if 4 minutes feels too short to me if we are going to have a cap. And the other thing that I just want to remind folks too is that once we have a rule, there's nothing that prevents somebody from saying, I know I've spoken for 5 minutes. This is really important. Will you please vote to suspend the rule so that I can continue speaking? So we do have that capacity as well if we do choose to move forward with a cap. Yes, Councilor.
I just wanted to mention, I didn't ask you to put this on, you put it on.
Yes, I did. I'm just trying to clear out the
just
rest
so
of my
people
jacket
will
as
know
we're going
that.
to the end of the year. Yes, and you're right. Councilor Devine did not
Madam
reach out to me
Chair.
asking to put it on the agenda. Yes, Councilor
Madam
Greenie.
Chair. Yeah, I don't think that we should limit any councilor's speech. There's a lot to be said in this community, especially with some of the garbage that's being peddled on the internet that's going around and making baseless accusations about some of the councilors who are on this council. And I think we should have a free rein to be able to speak to a lot of these issues that are very hurtful, very disdainful as far as our personalities and our persona is concerned. And these things need to be addressed. And at some point in time, they are going to be addressed in council. So I cannot see putting a governor on any speech of any council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I will name, we have, a few, right? We say that someone can only speak twice. And that in order for a person to speak a third time, there has to be a vote in the body to allow it. So we do have some guidelines in our current rules limiting speech in some way, and not to censor speech, but to create guidelines, just to create boundaries around how much we're expecting someone to speak in a given item. And I think that this is another way of getting at it, similar to other rules that we have. But I agree, Councilor Greenie, that it's really important to make sure that we're not leading into censorship and the folks are able to share the things they need to share. Councilor Bacon, did I see your hand?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Well, here's the other thing about the rules. We've adopted a rule, for example, that counselors will not text during meetings. There's social media posts going on during every single council meeting. So the question that comes to my mind is, why make more rules when we're not following the rules we have? It just seems like people are making rules to solve some immediate problem, but then when they're not convenient to be followed, or some individual just decides that rule does not apply to them, there's nothing done, no accountability had relative to the rules. So you have to start wondering what the value is. And I think that's problematic because we all vote to pass the rules. Granted, on some of them, some people vote no and some people vote yes, but we do function by the will of the body.
Yes. Well, and I also think that the later on in this agenda is also looking at sort of censuring. It's a tricky thing to name. These are rules, and we're agreeing. Thank you, Councilor Casio, for joining us. Are we agreeing together to live by these rules? And are we sort of going into these conversations where we are all trying to make ourselves follow these things? Or are we waiting for some outside person or vector to establish rules and make sure people follow them? Because there is a limit to which we can make each other follow the rules.
So
We
why
don't-
make more?
Well, I think because in the spirit of the rules that we have, we should be working to create rules where we together will then try to have a functional council. Because the council president, I think we're trying to get clarity here too on, it says that we can censure people in our rules. And if we do so, that person isn't allowed to speak until they make amends. So what does that mean, right? We're going to be looking at that later because I've never seen that used. And I think partly it's because people aren't sure how it can be used,
Well,
or if that's something that
we'll
should
get
be
to,
should be used,
excuse me,
right?
but that's, I guess, in a later order that we'll be talking about.
It is. I'm
that,
just
but
responding to your
it's in
concern about
Robert's
the rules
rules.
not being followed.
It's in Robert's rules, and it clearly says how it can be used. And those are the rules we abide by in our rules.
Yep.
So it's pretty straightforward. It just requires the will of the body to do it.
Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, thanks. I would recommend at this time, item 1, stay on the table. I think it should be revisited by the new council in January when we revisit all the other rules. For this term, our compromise was the 10 o'clock rule. That is a new rule that just started with this council. I think it's working more or less well. I think we need a little more. I watched the tape of the last meeting, and I would advise all members to check out what happened at the end of that last meeting. We had 2 10-minute extensions, and then the last 10 minutes of the meeting, there was no extension at all. We were actually officially adjourned during the last 10 minutes of that meeting. Okay? So that's interesting because you're taking action of the council during adjournment, totally not allowed to do that, right? We actually took a vote during adjournment. And there's a whole separate issue there, by the way, is people, I would say, go back and review the tape on that. There was a vote on reconsideration, and there was never a vote to actually approve that transfer, separate issue. But you need 2 votes. There was only 1 vote. And so, and this is all on tape, so this isn't Kevin's opinion. This is, watch it for yourself. But nevertheless, let's start with enforcing the actual 10 o'clock rule before we start creating additional new rules, right? Like, let's actually make sure 2/3 of the body wants to keep doing these extensions. Generally, I go along with them if most people want them. I think some of the thing is helped by another later item, the late files, and I think we're doing overall a pretty good. I try to look at the balance of it. I think there's some things we're doing really well. I think there's some things we're not doing so well. One of the things I think we're doing pretty well is when orders come in that are going to committee, we try to limit the debate and discussion on those, and keeping the late file items down, which is another subject for earlier today. I will just say that, we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing different? Why is it not working now? When for the first 125 years of this council, and I've got the rule books all the way back to day 1, we've never had a time limit rule. So why is it that this council could function for 125 years without a time limit on how long people speak rule. We have the 2 times speak. That rule's been in effect for decades and decades and decades and decades. But this notion that, you're limited to 4 minutes of speaking when you have some extremely robust topics that come in here and deserve public vetting at a public meeting. And the reality is we do not get the attendance and the full membership and the attendance of the public at these committee meetings. And that discussion frequently, especially when we're summating big issues, not the little stuff. I'm in agreement. The little stuff, we should try and very much a summary. And I think we're doing overall as a group a pretty good job on that. But the big one, the big topics, you're going to have some thoughtful discussion, and it might go over 4 minutes. So I think we should stay to our compromise that everybody worked together this term, which was the 10 o'clock rule, enforce the 10 o'clock rule, see where that takes us. Revisit this. If we want to do something new, we'll have new membership coming in January, what they want to do. We shouldn't be hamstringing these kind of monumental changes at the end of our term and save it for whoever's going to be here in January. I think that would be also wise. This is a huge change. And I am not a big fan of it. And I just say, again, we've done fine for 125 years without it. And I think we could do another 125 without it. So not that I'll be here, but I just would ask that let's let the 10 o'clock thing work, and I think we'll be just fine. Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. To tag on to the discussion about rules and the value of them and following them, I would just note that I have communicated to the city clerk, our administrative assistant, and our law department, to Attorney Bissonnette, the violation of both rules that occurred at the last city council meeting. I mean, people have been all about making these rules, and we're not even following them. So I'm not in favor at this time of adding any new rules. I am in favor of us somehow trying to get our membership to commit to following the ones we already have. And then I think we will be better served, all of us. So for the moment, I would make a motion to table this.
Okay. Well, then let's move to a vote, since we're not going to debate a motion to table.
Has to have a second. If there's no second, the motion fails.
I'm not able to provide a second for that motion.
Well, then I'll make a motion to deny.
I don't,
Okay, well, I will second for the purpose of discussion. In terms of
I don't think you should.
moving this forward, I think to Councilor Jordane's point, and I appreciate how you described the end of last meeting. I think it's a good description of what isn't working. I don't know if the 10 p.m. cap works if we're not willing to limit our speech so that we can actually get through the items that are on the agenda. If we had limited our speech earlier on in earlier issues, then we would have gotten to things that we had to get to. There were financial transfers that we had to get to. And people were not privileging that. They were privileging other topics and other things. And our current rules allows for people to speak as long as they want. I was very upset about how the last meeting went because I made a motion. Let's extend until 10:30. Looking ahead, I could see what was going to happen. We were running head first into that. And I did not get the votes to do that. And then we had 2 10-minute extensions, and then even though I said several times, we have to vote to extend, people talked over me and kept talking, and then made motions, and then voted. For me, I was like, this is a good example of why potentially we have to limit speech. 2, a time cap, and a reasonable time cap. I'm not even saying I think 4 minutes is the right number. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 10. I'm not against there being a more reasonable number, but last time's meeting did not feel like the cap was working to me, because we did not serve the people in the things that we were supposed to do based on the agenda that we had said we were going to get through. Councillor Bacon and then Councillor Devine.
Thank you. As I said at the meeting, the item that we spent probably the most time discussing should have been on the agenda in September, already addressed and already dealt with. That was a deliberate move by the chair of DGR to keep that order in that jacket. The meeting didn't even take place till the night before our city council meeting, and almost all the same people that showed up at the committee meeting showed up at the city council meeting, so they all spoke. So to think that people are not going to discuss an issue such as that at some length in the public city council meeting for the public to be fully aware of people's positions is naive at best. And to attempt to stifle that would not be serving the public interest, in my view, at all. So to chastise people for speaking to an order that was held up from June until October is, in my view, out of order. There's no chastising deserved by anyone who spoke to that issue. We didn't chastise the public. Some of the people that came on the public weren't even asked for their name and address. They just said which ward they were from. So, let's not be pointing fingers and shooting arrows at each other over our ability to have freedom of speech while we're defending some of the most offensive freedom of speech I've heard at the microphone this year by candidates coming in using the F word, challenging sitting councilors by name to their face while they're campaigning to sit on this body and supposedly be a colleague. No, thank you. I don't want people like that as colleagues on the city council, and I don't think the public wants to be served by people who come to that microphone and do that either. So I reject any chastisement of speaking on an order that was brought to the council months after it had been filed, and 1 full month after a maker of the order had requested it to be taken up. But some people were really enjoying the protest that continued for another month with the profanity, the burning cross, the hate language on it that was pointed at 4 of us. And we all know who they are, and not one word from any other sitting councilor in defense of the impropriety of that behavior. So if some of us are feeling somewhat defensive, that's why 4 of us have been named repeatedly and vilely, and not enough taped on public utilities. Really, is this what we've come to? We're better than this. We're better than this, I hope. So before we start making up more rules, and the site that has been so supportive of all this nastiness, just so you know, publishes certain counselors' posts all the time. Other counselors only get named in profane posts referred to as sit down and shut up, etc. And so the same people that are arguing for all this freedom of speech want certain people to just sit down and shut up. And that is not what our country is about. We have freedom of speech, and I will not support any limit on the speech of the counselors. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I certainly
Chair?
never meant to come. Just one moment, Councillor Greenie. I will recognize you after Councillor Devine. I just want to name, I never personally would want to chastise anybody. Councillor Jordan, yes?
Oh.
I just wanted to say that from myself, not so much about trying to prevent speech, but I think as a teacher, I'm used to teaching on a bell schedule. And I have 57 minutes and I have to make sure that I can get my point across in a certain amount of time. So certainly not saying I think people should not speak, not at all what I'm trying to say. Just speaking around if it's possible to be concise enough for us to be able to get through all the topics that we need to when they're on a public agenda.
Withdraw
Counselor,
my motion and renew my motion to table.
I can't provide a second for that. Counselor Devine?
Yeah, thank you. I have no problem with tabling it till a new council comes on. I don't have a problem with that. And certainly, what I don't understand is if I have an order in a committee and I want it taken up, I'd at least ask that committee chairman to do that. Excuse me, I was talking to the chair. I'd at least ask the chairman of that committee to do it. I wouldn't accuse anybody of doing it on purpose. So again, I have no problem whatsoever in tabling this, changing the minutes to 10 minutes, anything that gets our meetings not slower, but more concise. So.
Well, I would make it a motion to raise the cap to 10 minutes. Okay, I don't have a second. So I'm guessing.
Madam Chair, could I speak, please?
Counselor Graney, yes.
This item has been in the jacket since March or May of 2024, so it's been sitting there for well over a year. So why now?
There's two reasons for the why. One, just seeing that I'm bringing all of the items back up that have been tabled over the next two meetings as much as possible so that we can once again see, are we ready to move on these or are they just sitting here? And also because, to be honest, I set this agenda way before we had the meeting that we just had. And it did change my perspective on how I felt about if we might want to reconsider this because the last meeting did not actually get us where we needed to be with time. Time was the issue. Yes, Counselor Devine.
Is there I hate to use the word rule, but what happens to all of these if they're not taken up? Are they just gone
No,
at
those,
the end of the year?
Unless you ask for it to stay. Our new rule is everything expires at the end of the term unless if you're reelected, then you can ask that the order stay live.
Okay.
Yeah. Madam Chair.
So I've renewed my motion to table.
second. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up item 2.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Item 2, 5625, McGrath-Smith ordered that City Council Rule 9I be revised from subcommittees should not be allowed to meet at the same time, same night, to subcommittees should not be allowed to meet at the same time, same night, unless the chairs of 2 or more subcommittees have called for a joint meeting. The context of this was just wanting clarity. I felt like at the time, last time we tried to call a joint committee, it was unclear. Folks had different interpretations. It had been done different times in the past. It said one thing in our rules, but then we had seen that the last few joint committee meetings had been called in a different way. So wanting to clarify that if it is a joint meeting, then we're not breaking this rule somehow that subcommittees can't meet at the same time. Councilor Jourdain?
Yeah, it's a good order that you filed. Number one is, in the current rule, you're not allowed to do them, okay, unless you suspend the rules, which of course then anything goes, right?
Yeah.
So, so the question is, do we want to have a rule that allows it and just spell it out here more, which is perfectly fine with me, or when these rare occurrences occur, they're usually not controversial at all. So just motion to suspend the rules to allow this meeting. The only thing you got to be disciplined to say, these are the dates we're doing them. Like if you know X1 was done, you just got to remember every time you keep doing it. Because if you do like, well, we want to do a series of 4 joint meetings, you either got to name and allow that, or you have to redo the motion each time you're doing it. That's the only thing. But I mean, you could keep it the rule and just do the suspensions and do it as need. I mean, it's not too often we have these, or you could write it into the rule that says, upon a vote of the council, we authorize, then it would only be a majority vote to authorize a joint meeting. But we do have, the reason this was a rule, this rule isn't a forever rule. It's probably about 15 years old, maybe 20 years old. This rule was because we wanted to prevent two committees from meeting at the same time so counselors could go to both
Makes
meetings.
total sense.
Right? So that was the whole logic behind the rule. So yeah, that's the background on it.
Thank you. Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. I have other concerns about this rule. If we make this rule, I believe the joint meeting of the committee should be known by the council before it's happening. So that what I'm saying is, in between two city council meetings, I do not believe two chairs should be able to call each other on the phone and decide they're having a joint committee meeting and post a 48-hour notice as such. Because
Sure.
depending on which committees we're meeting, you could be, in effect, having a city council meeting with, between two committees, a majority of the council present for the joint meeting. And I think that would create another kind of problem, because
Yeah.
then you'd really be tripping into a special city council meeting. So I think there are other complications to this that may not have been foreseen, because we have 2 or 3 5-member committees. So depending on the makeup, you would be in the realm of it really being a city council meeting, not properly called. So I think that needs to be carefully considered before we just make this a rule.
Well, I would make a motion to amend it to add upon a vote of the council after the word unless, so that it reads, subcommittees should not be allowed to meet at the same time or same night unless upon a vote of the council, the chairs of 2 or more subcommittees have called for a joint meeting.
On a vote of the full council.
Yeah.
The two chairs would make a request to the full council, and then the full council would approve it. Okay. And then,
Seems fine. It makes it a majority vote.
and then how are you going to
But
address?
if I may,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we would have to stipulate that no such meeting could include a majority of the city council. You can't.
I think that's tricky because in the past, we've sometimes ordinance and finance have met. I think that was something that happened a lot during the cannabis introduction to the city.
Nothing happened
yes?
a lot in terms of joint meetings. I think that.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, in what folks have told me is that the most common joint meetings have been like finance and ordinance have met sometimes. Ordinance and charter rules have met. Those are, of course, smaller committees, but charter and rules, of course, is
Right, but
the
the
smallest
point I'm making
committee.
is between 2 certain committees and 2 other committees, you have 10 members. And unless there's enough overlap, you will have a majority of the council at a joint committee meeting, which you cannot do. That is called a special city council meeting. I'm just, you
Solicitor
need to be
Bissonnette.
careful.
We have a concern that we have to revise this rule to make clear that joint committee meetings, when they happen, do not comprise a majority or more of the council. Can you speak to that?
I don't think you need to spell out that you can't violate the open meeting law if that's the intent. I might suggest that added to your current rule, at the very end, you could continue to stipulate that no committee meetings may take place at the same time. And then just add a line, unless previously approved by the full council. And I think that would satisfy the notice requirement to the council because they'd have to approve it in advance. It would satisfy Councilor Bacon's concern about the 48-hour notice after just 2 members decide to have a meeting. And I think that would certainly give rise to an acknowledgement by the chairs that they've got to count some numbers, because the subject matter will be the same as coming before the full council. So out of the 10, no more than 6 could be members of the council. So the number counting could get quite tricky. For the smaller committees, the 3-person committees, I don't think it's as much of a problem, but I think Councilor Bacon is right. In certain circumstances, it could trigger the open meeting law.
That's interesting, because I don't think that we've considered that previously when we've had our most recent joint committee meetings of finance and ordinance. But what I'm hearing is that effectively, in order to meet open meeting law, we should make sure that when we have joint committee meetings, that we may not in fact be able to have the entire committee present. And if that's the case, how would we do that? Right, that gets a little bit odd in terms of withdrawing straws. It becomes a little odd
Well,
in terms
one of
of
the,
only 2 members of finance and only 3 members of ordinance can meet. Is that what I'm hearing?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I may, Madam Chair, other communities I know have dealt with this by doing a committee of the whole. If they sense there are matters of joint interest of more than one committee, they design a committee of the whole in their rules, and then that's where this goes on any topic. Some even use it to go into committee to deal with the budget, the annual budget, but certainly could be used in situations like this as well.
Councillor Devine, did you have your hand up before?
I can't remember what I was going to say, but I know in the past we've done it a long time ago, but are there any counselors, I can't think off the top of my head, that are on 2 of the same committees, ordinance and finance?
Yes.
So that creates a problem.
Yeah, that's right.
The only one I'm thinking of is Mike Sullivan, maybe.
Yeah,
He's not on
well, charter and rules and ordinance is a good example. They both sit on
crossover.
both committees. So when that, in this most recent example,
It didn't create a problem.
like, do they vote twice?
Right.
How does that,
Yeah.
practically work?
I think it's
We
a
voted
rare
as
occasion.
members of charter and rules from the charter and rules side, and then we voted as members of ordinance from the ordinance side.
Interesting.
But the fact that, because that's what we were advised to do by the law department,
okay.
but also because there was so much crossover, there was no concern around there being too many of us.
Right.
Whereas there could be 2 larger committees where there's not a lot of crossover, and it could create this issue. But I do think it is already 7:38. It's restarting at 7 tonight. So I want to honor time that we may be going into the weeds of this and addressing things that need to be matched to open meeting law, but don't necessarily pertain to this rule, which is more about calling a meeting. The membership of the meeting is not addressed in this rule, and it sounds to me like that's either a separate order or needs to be a memo from the law department that we ask for around the membership of these joint committees. But I do like the language that Bissonnette suggested, that we actually drop everything after, night. So rather than saying, it's the chairs who are calling it, just say unless previously approved by a vote of the full council. There's elegance in that, and it makes clear that it's coming from the council, which I think is nice. Councillor Bacon and then Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. So I actually prefer the suggestion that if we are in a circumstance where we want to have 2 committees meet, that in most cases, because the bigger committees are the ones that handle the more complex matters usually, that would involve up to 10 members, that we should make a rule and talk about the committee of the whole. Because to me, it feels almost coercive to have chairs calling joint committee meetings so they have, 7, 8, 9, 10 people in the room to then come and tell the rest, the 3, how it's going to be, So I think if we're going to have so many people in the room, we might as well have everybody in the room. So I like the committee of the whole rule. I don't know how it's actually worded, but maybe if Attorney Bissonnette is aware of it, we could request him to provide it to us, and we could table this and take a look at it.
It's in Roberts rules, committee of the whole. We've used it periodically.
But I'm just saying if we're considering making it one of our rules.
Right. But technically, it is our rule by being in
It's
Robert's, though.
rules. Counselor Rudy?
Yeah, just a couple points. One is agree with the point that if we're going to have this and talk about how they're called, we're probably going to have a section on how we're going to run them, right? If that's what we want to do. But generally supportive of the calling of what you're discussing. Number two is agree with the point about the majority. If it's a majority of the members, that is because imagine the scenario where 7 or more members are meeting and discussing business of the city council and voting. That's basically a special city council meeting. That ceases to no longer really be a committee meeting. Because once you get to a majority, that you really are, and I agree with Mike, that I think that is the correct approach. So just be careful about that. I don't know if you want to put in a safeguard on that now. And then the issue is if you're going to have it, then the members voting on how you're going to handle people being on multiple committees, 1 vote, 2 votes, or is it when it's merged, it's all just one committee meeting? It is a merged committee and everybody gets 1 vote. That should be probably spelled out.
If it was an ad hoc committee, that would be the case. Because it would form effectively its own committee. This is more about joint committees. But I do like the idea that we could amend it to add that second line from Councillor Vacan. If a joint committee comprises a majority of the full council, the council can call a committee of the whole.
Right, and that's exactly what I said 10 minutes ago.
I'm just agreeing with you.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, I was just writing down the language to make sure that we had it. All right, so my motion is to amend the current language to say, subcommittees should not be allowed to meet at the same time, same night, unless previously approved by a vote of the full council. If a joint committee comprises a majority of the full council, then the council can call a committee of the whole.
I will second that motion if that's a motion.
Yes. Any further conversation? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion to
Motion
take up.
item 3.
Thank you. Second, item 3.
Aye.
Yes, all right. Aye. Item 3 is from 4/15/25. McGrath-Smith ordered that a new Rule 6H be added to the City Council rules. Proposed Rule 6H, any member of the council, upon being recognized by the president, may pose a question to be answered by the law department. And this came up from context in a time when someone wanted to ask for the opinion of the law department, and the council voted against allowing them to hear the city solicitor speak. And I wanted to put this in as a rule so that it could be a majority vote instead of it being, or that it could be not a vote, but instead could be something that a counselor could assume, that if I ask a question, it can be answered by the law department rather than the body being able to prevent that person from hearing from the city solicitor. Councillor Bacon?
Thank you. So in order to have other members of the body in the chambers or on Zoom that are not members of the body, we have to vote to suspend our rules to do that. Correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So that was
so
why I
if-
had put this in as a rule change.
Right, right. So that applies to all of the rules or any of the rules. So I think if you make a rule, it's almost like the rule that says if one person objects, it can't go forward, only it's the opposite of that. It's saying in this instance, one person is acting as a majority of the council. And we're sitting here and we're talking about limiting the speech of the members of the council in one order. And then in this order, we're talking about everybody all throughout the meeting being able to say, law department, what do you think about this? Law department, what do you think about that? I think it would be a misuse and unfair to the rest of the body on the council, as well as to the law department, to be essentially made a member of the council, which they're not. Normally, when we refer things to the law department, it's for them to be able to research them, look up similar things, and then get back to us with a formulated thought, not to weigh in debate and answer a question on the fly in the context of debate on a matter. So I think this order has a good intention of letting people be able to hear from the law department, but I would also remind us that any of us can reach out to the law department on questions relative to orders that will be coming up before us outside of the meeting as well. So it's not that members are limited only to access to the law department in the city council meeting. I think we need to stay with our rules of suspension for people that are not city councilors to speak, to help to maintain the order and the roles relative to the chambers and our various city departments. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jordan and then Counselor Givner.
Yeah, a couple of points. One is Roberts is clear that non-members require a rule suspension in order for non-members to speak. Number two is a lot of this has to do with homework, right? That you basically, if you have questions about what you're supposed to be doing, you should be asking these questions in advance, all right? There's very few curveballs that are coming at these meetings. Many of these topics, especially the hotly debated ones, rarely are coming in for the first time anyways. So folks need, if you're not sure what you should be doing, what the law allows, you should be picking up the phone and you should be reaching out to the law department. It's already in the ordinance. Any member of this council can ask for opinions on different topics. I think that's potentially underutilized, all right? And I know I keep, and the law department well knows, I keep a whole library of past opinions because I've yet to hear too often any novel new issues that come up. Most of these past law departments have opined on these topics before, which is also sort of interesting how they, we actually have some, well, I won't even go there, I'll be nice. But we have these wide swings of opinions on these same topics that have occurred. But nevertheless, people need to do their homework. People need to do their prep work. Because you didn't do your homework, you don't shut the whole meeting down. Because if we're really concerned about timeliness and efficiency of our meetings, law department, tell me this, tell me that. And then, we're going to have that. Any one member at any time with no rule suspension. I don't understand this. Kevin Jordan just said X, Y, Z, and he made a legal argument. Now I don't know what to do. Help me, call a friend, and it's like, this is like, we've had the law department speaking in this term more than any term I have ever seen in my tenure here, okay? And I think I blame the members more than I blame the law department because the members need to be going to the law department and understanding what their obligations are and what they're supposed to be doing. And because otherwise, if it's, law department can talk as much as they want, well, then if they end up saying something that I disagree with, okay, or they come up with some novel interpretation of something and put this out there, then we're going to have rebuttal time too. Because, maybe 10 years ago, we did the opposite of that, right? So this is the thing. And it's like, that's the thing that concerns me with this. This is why it's like, okay, if you use it once in a while, I'll almost guarantee I will vote to give any member a rule suspension to speak to the law department on a topic, especially if it's something you couldn't have possibly prepared for. Like something comes up in the middle of the meeting, totally unanticipated, right? And there's this legal conundrum that must be addressed at that moment. We probably all want to hear from the law department, right, to advise us. That won't be controversial. There's nothing to worry about. And by the way, I think, once, maybe, we've turned down one of these requests in umpteen meetings. So this is pretty routinely being given. It's not a problem that we need a rule change. Okay, again, I come back to the fact is, folks, this place has been running fine for 125 years. All kinds of characters have come through here as counselors. All kinds of controversial topics. The issues change, the people change. The river keeps on flowing. And what I would say is, this is not broken. There is nobody, if we had 10 requests to smell the law department and 10 out of 10 were being turned down because, we're trying to deny you access to information, then maybe we take a different tack, right? Of course, my question will be is, how is it you have so many unanswered questions that you didn't, call the law department about? So I think a lot of this could be avoided with just preparation. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Givner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to definitely agree with Counselor Jordan that people need to do their homework before meetings and be in touch with the law department accordingly if they have questions. What I've mostly noticed is like procedural disagreements and the law department being asked a question. I personally don't remember someone being denied asking the law department a question. So again, to Counselor Jordan's point, it's very rare where any of us would, vote against allowing someone to ask a question of the law department. So I understand the spirit of this rule change, but it doesn't seem to me to be a huge issue, but I can understand just wanting to, make kind of blanket changes to make it easier to not have to suspend the rules. But it sounds like, it sounds like it's not a problem and that, as the city solicitor or, any of our legal team are not city councilors, we would have to ask to suspend the rules regardless. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that. Thanks.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Counselor Greenie?
Yeah, quickly. One thing I definitely am not going to do is ask the law department for an opinion on this question, but I wholeheartedly agree with Counselor Givner and Counselor Jordan. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to give this order leave to withdraw.
And can I make another friendly suggestion?
Yes, Counselor Jordan.
To Counselor Givner's point, which is an excellent one, which is, I think personally, the law department's being put in a very bad position to have to rule on these different rules issues. You already know my opinion on that topic. The answer is a parliamentarian, okay? And I think you and I are mano a mano on that issue. I think we're in of like mind on that. I personally am in favor of doing a parliamentarian. I think it would be helpful and supportive, and I think it's neutral, and I think it takes the law department out of being perceived as one way or the other, or it extracts them out of a tricky situation on some of these rules things, and is somebody that we all picked. I think that's the answer, and maybe if we did that, you would let even more least need to know these things because that person would be available to the president. Now, maybe I'm in the minority view on doing parliamentarian. I don't know what other counselors think, but I'm in the school that, you know what, that's not a bad idea. And I think that could be helpful to us because, some of the stuff we do is tricky and we want to do it the right way. So if that could be a help to the president, why not? And the mayor was supportive of funding it. So maybe we go that direction. And then if that works, that should cut down the number of requests because the parliamentarian's right there. A question could be, with a majority vote, the parliamentarian can be asked a question, right?
Yes, Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. And I do think a person in that role could be helpful, in particular, depending on how much or how little experience and knowledge the sitting council has relative to the rules and Robert's rules and the like.
Completely.
And so to the extent that, say, a majority of the council is junior, for lack of a better word, in terms of being on the council, it could be a good resource.
Well, maybe we table it for now until we have a clarity on whether or not the council's interested in the parliamentary.
All right, I'll make a motion.
We
to
haven't
table.
gone to talk about it.
Make a motion to table.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
All right, all in favor of tabling? Aye.
Motion to take up item 4.
Second, all in favor? Aye. 4:15:25, Jordan, council rules be amended to ban outright all late filed orders, communications, and any other business of the council unless it is a matter of absolute emergency to the city and no member objects. To the maker of the order?
Yeah, I like this. I mean, it should be something where I will say, even by way of full transparency, years ago, I used to file a lot more, post my second, after my, 4-year hiatus on my comeback tour here. In my prior service, I used to do more late files, and a lot of it has to do with, some stuff comes up, constituents call over the weekend, stuff that's really important. You just don't want to make them wait 2 weeks. It's that kind of stuff. But as I've thought about it more, I rarely file late file unless it absolutely has to be. And I like the idea that the late file numbers are way, way down. But if there is something that comes up as an emergency, then okay, then we'll do it. But it should be something like, this is really an emergency. Otherwise, and I think it would be obvious to, what those are. And then that way, if nobody objects and everybody thinks it's fine, then it'll go forward. But otherwise, we'll save it for 2 weeks.
I'd rather take them one at a time. Thanks. So,
Counselor Bacon?
thank you. So I am in full support of this order because we also have it established that the president approves any late files before they're going on the agenda. And this would just give further weight and support to the president not having to add a lot of extra work unless the whole body concurs. Because, different people bring different approaches to how they want to get things done. And this is a little bit off topic, but because a counselor sitting in the room referred to me as attacking somebody about adding my order to an agenda, I requested it in writing to that chair of that committee, just for the record. Thank you. But on this matter, I'm in complete support. I am not a fan at all of the late filed orders because I think they are very marginal relative to the open meeting law. And even though they do end up published, they don't get the same kind of attention the fully original published agenda gets. And many times the late filed orders have been significant financial transfers that have originated within the city. And I think those should be fully out there on the first agenda for the public. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to read into the record what we have currently in our rules around late files. It says, in case of such a late filed order, request, resolution, or other form of business, hereafter order, the maker shall indicate on the order that it should be considered as a late filed order. Upon reading of the order, present a brief explanation of the need to consider the order on the night rather than waiting to consider it as a regular agenda item. Orders filed after the deadline presented in Rule 4B and not specifically designated as a late filed order for consideration at the next upcoming city council shall not be considered at that council meeting, but will instead be added to the agenda of the next regularly scheduled council meeting, amended May 15, 2012. Added November 15th, 2016. Late filed orders shall be limited to 10. If a late file order is deemed an emergency, the city council president may replace any order on the late docket file that is not an emergency in nature. The item replaced shall be placed on the next full council agenda of the city council. I will say that, I mean, you can see in the time, people have been trying to fix this,
Right.
fixing it in different ways.
But it hasn't happened.
And at some point, there was, even 10 seemed like a good number to shoot for, which it sounds like maybe there were more late files more frequently at some point. Because in general,
Years ago, there were.
there haven't been that many late files. But I think also because we're now in this mode of trying to respond to the cap and late files are last, I think suddenly we're feeling this stress because these late files, unless someone, again, is doing their homework and pulling those late files and attaching them to something else in the agenda earlier, or asking us to suspend the rules to take it out of order earlier in the meeting, and it's really a pressing thing, often there's this stress of at the end, a really important late file that's a financial transfer is being just tackled because suddenly there's this urgency that it has to be voted on before the meeting cap hits. And that's not a good way of doing business. Can that be handled? One, by getting things in before the meeting? Yes. One other thing that I've been thinking about is just encouraging folks to pull your late filed orders out early. If they really need discussion, move them front and center by just making a motion, because it's not good business to be trying to make a financial transfer decision in the last 5 minutes of a meeting where no one can properly debate it or ask questions. But I can see we've been trying to resolve this for a long time. One thing that I do question, it seems like some of ours, and I can't say what percent, are really coming from department heads. It's informational. It's something that they really wanted us to get, but maybe there was some misunderstanding. They maybe didn't get to the clerk in time, or maybe they didn't realize it was information that should be shared to council. So I think that there's something where I understand wanting to tell counselors, meet the deadline, get it before it's due. But I do wonder if we want to make any exception for effectively city department heads saying, no, actually, I didn't realize that I needed to get this to council, or this thing just landed on my desk, here it is. Do we want to make any carve out for that? Is one of my questions. All right, Councilor Devine and Councilor Bacon.
I wanted to say, going way back, we never really had problems with late filed orders.
Right.
And we used it as a teaching lesson. Could be a new counselor that doesn't know any better and files that. That's where the president comes in and says, the next time you don't need to have that tree done right away.
Right.
It's just they're new and they want to make sure they're doing the right thing. So I don't know if we would outright ban them or say that department heads can't file, because sometimes it is a matter of finances. The other thing too is this is so closely related to item 5. Just to let you know that
Yes.
you sort of read item 5 on your tablet, so.
Councilor Bacon, and then I have a question for Councilor Jordan.
Thank you. So I believe in the item that we're discussing, if it is a matter of absolute emergency, and maybe we don't say emergency or necessity, whatever, and no member of the council objects, that to me would cover a financial transfer situation such as a grant that had to be accepted within X days. That allows for that to happen. But should there be a carve out for department heads? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Those things should come in timely. Ignorance is not bliss, and late communications are almost never bliss.
Thank you. So my question, I think, is in line with where you're going, which is, my question is, how do we constitute an absolute emergency? How do we name what that is? Do we need to name what that is? And I do like the term a necessity too. I think that could
No
also
member
work.
objects.
Maybe, right, yeah. They see the need so much that no one objects.
Exactly.
Right, it creates its own
That
self.
does it.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay, it pretty much is.
Madam Chair?
Is what you're saying.
Just one moment, Councilor Green.
If no-
Councilor
if-
Jordan has the floor.
Yeah, if nobody objects, then that means the body thinks it's Whether you use emergency or necessity, I don't have a strong opinion, but it's going to be pretty obvious that hopefully, yes, and I don't think there should be a general carve out for department heads. They should follow the open meeting law and get their things into the clerk. Our meetings are like clockwork. They're the first and third Tuesday of each month. Everybody knows this. And Brenna is very clear about what the rules are to get on the agenda. It should be something like, oh man, this came up on Monday and I, didn't realize I had to get this. It's like a true emergency. And we're going to approve that. I mean, we always do for that. Like that, no one would object to some grant for the city last minute. So there would be that wiggle room for those folks. But if people are just being kind of lazy and not getting their stuff into Brenna on time as a department head, then you know what? Maybe we send them a message that, oh, sorry, you wanted XYZ, you're going to have to wait now 2 weeks because you didn't get your stuff in. On the other, and then, if they're doing it all the time, you probably cut them a break if it's once in a blue moon. Everybody makes mistakes, but if it's all the time, then, you might make them wait till the next meeting, so.
And if I may?
Yes, Counselor Bacon.
So if it's something of necessity, like a financial matter, yes, that would constitute an emergency. But you could also constitute something as a necessity, such as an important recognition of somebody that is time sensitive, that is not controversial, but maybe somebody wasn't aware of it until later, and the majority would agree. So that's why I was thinking necessity, because it's a little less loaded than emergency, right? But I really like this order, and I would like to make a motion that we adopt this rule. It's a good rule.
Madam Chair,
Yes, under discussion, Counselor Greenie.
yes, quickly. You can soften the language very simply by simply saying, if it's the critical business of the city. That softens the language considerably, and I think it encompasses everything that's involved here. Thank you.
I was, I know we're under discussion. I was actually hoping we could table it only because what I wanted to do is actually draft the language. Because right now we have an idea, but we actually have to name it and also name what we're removing. So we are meeting again next week. So my thinking was that I would just take this language and then be able to put the side by
Urban
side.
Rules is meeting again next week.
Yes, because we didn't meet in September.
Yeah, because there were no open days in September. It was such an insane month.
I believe it was 2 weeks.
Or 2 weeks. 2 weeks, thank you. A little more time than next week.
Okay,
So the 29th.
29th, okay.
So my thinking was that I would like to put the side by side of here's what it currently is, here's what we're removing,
All right, well then.
or here's what
I'll,
we're changing it to.
I'll amend my motion to adopt the rule and just add the amendment that we change emergency to critical.
Yeah. Critical need or,
And then if this is adopted, I'll make a motion that we table for the language updates at our next meeting.
Yes, can I ask a question? So you want to use the language critical, unless it is the critical business of the city?
Yes,
From Howie
and no
Graney?
one.
and no member objects.
No.
Okay, sure. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if you don't mind, I really need to leave, so I was just wanted to.
absolutely. Happy to.
It's up to you if you would take up 8, 9, and 10 and give them leave to withdraw. I have no problem with that, because they're very complicated, I think, and you want to be here till midnight to talk about them, but it doesn't bother me if they're given leave to withdraw.
Well, we do have legal opinions.
I can't hear you.
We did have a response from the law department.
Oh, all right, okay.
So I don't know if we should give them leave to withdraw, because I think we should at least
Well, I didn't know we had a
do
response.
the, reading them
So
into the
I'll make a motion
record.
that we go out of order
Yeah.
and take up items 8, 9, and 10 as a package.
Thank
Second,
you.
And then,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
and I haven't had a chance to read it, but I would like to make a motion that we receive the law department
Yep.
opinion.
Has that been circulated to everyone?
No, we just got it,
We just got it.
as far as I know, unless
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, yeah.
so I'm just making a motion to receive it. But then I think we'll have to table the items.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
Okay,
then Jeff will circulate the opinion. Okay.
Yeah, they were emailed maybe a couple hours ago because I only got them this afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think maybe my preference would be that we have time to read these and then we can table it to the next meeting
yes,
and then we can
yes, that was,
have the
I was going
discussion.
to offer a motion, but I just wanted to make sure we had received the legal
Yep.
opinion. And so now my motion is to table to review the opinion.
Second. Any discussion? Yes. Okay. And thank you, Counselor Devine, for coming.
Wait, did you say?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So let's go back to item 5.
Okay, so on item 5, a motion to take up item 5.
Second. All in favor? Aye. This is Bartley's companion order around late files. So just to read it into the record. 31825 Bartley City Council Rule 4 is hereby amended as follows. Add the following paragraph to the end of Rule 4B. For the sake of public transparency, late filed orders as defined herein may be added to the already published regular agenda and presented A, to the members of the regular meeting by offering printed copies and by remittance to the members by way of electronic mail, and the same shall be sent no later than 1 p.m. on the day the regular meeting is scheduled. And B, to the public via the city website, and the same shall be posted no later than 1 p.m. on the day of a regular city council meeting. In any event, late filed orders may not be appended the regular agenda unless for good cause, and so long as written approval from both the clerk and the president is presented to the members before the regular meeting. Said writing shall be presented to the members at both the regular meeting and shall include reasons explaining the good cause and signatures of both the clerk and the president. Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So in order for us to be able to take this up tonight, Counselor Bartley had distributed an email. I'm not going to read the whole email because there's one significant sentence in it. And the significant sentence is, finally, if the committee wants to endorse agenda item number 4, then ignore all of this. So
Okay.
he was just putting in the rationale
Okay.
for item 5. But by my reading of this, I would say he was comfortable if item 4
Okay.
passed.
Great. Yeah, and I did tell him about the meeting tonight. He just wasn't able to attend.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So,
great.
I think we could call this one complied with. I'd like to make a motion that
Okay.
item 5 is complied with because we're adopting 4.
Sure. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to take up item 6.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Item 6, this is 12-523 vacant, ordered that we amend our charter and ordinances to change from an elected mayor to a city manager, chief administrative financial officer appointed by the city council. And this was taken up and discussed twice, in May and June of 2024. It says here 3/3/25, but that was on the agenda, but not taken up.
Right. So I still remain in favor of this, but I did not anticipate we would have deep discussion on it tonight, but I would like it to be kept alive in the jacket, please.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to table. This is not right now,
Okay.
this topic.
Is your thinking that you want to keep it in the jacket, just sort of as a permanent fixture?
I'm thinking,
Or do you want any city department to provide information or?
I think the timing for us to get deep into it is not quite here yet. But I'm not sure when that time will be, if it will be in this calendar year or in the new year. But it's definitely, I think, a topic that needs further consideration. So I'll make a motion to table.
Okay. Second? All in favor?
Aye. And motion to take up item 7. Oh, and you know what? Item 7 shouldn't be taken up because it's my open meeting law violation that I filed and it hasn't been answered yet.
Yes, in fact, I just wanted to have them give the update that they had reached out to find out why we haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, they do what they do when they do it. I've
Yeah.
waited months before and I guess we're waiting months now.
Thank you, counselors. Yes, so just to take up item 7, so I can just say that.
Okay.
So
Motion to take up item 7.
second, all in favor, aye. So this was 4125 from Counselor Linda Bacon, OML complaint regarding majority of Turner Rules members meeting privately in the working group. I just wanted to name that I had reached out to say, I'm wondering why we haven't heard anything back. Can you reach out and ask? And they did reach out, and the city solicitor talked to them, found out who it had been assigned to, and heard that they were, it was on their docket, but that they had not taken it yet. So just informational. Hopefully they respond soon.
Yeah, it's not always a quick process.
Thank you. So that was all. That was the whole update there.
Okay. So we'll say
Table?
it's complied with. Well, they'll answer us when they answer us. We don't,
Well, that's
we don't
true.
run this.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So complied with.
You know
All
what I
right.
mean?
Yes. All right. So second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then everything else has been tabled. So I think it's just motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a
all.
good night, everyone.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Counselor Greenie. You too.
night.
Thank you, Counselor Givner.